Survival hype, it never changes. Each and every year we get overly excited about potentially what we'll be playing in the next coming 12 months. I often do lots of list videos giving you what I think is going to be the biggest hits, or certainly giving you info about every kind of survival game I can find. But what do the people say? That's what we're discovering right now. The top 10 most wishlisted Steam survival games. Doesn't mean these games will be any good, it doesn't mean they'll actually be out in 2025, and it's not perfect science given there are some survival games that might release on different platforms. But it's the best indicator we've got of what everyone's really hyped for. Of course, I'm going to give you my opinion about when they might release and what I really think about them. And if you want to know more about survival in 2025, make sure you subscribe to my channel, JPG. I've done loads of list videos taking a look at all the other survival games that you're currently seeing on your screen right now that could be appearing in the next 12 months. Anywho, the top 10 most wishlisted survival games on Steam in 2025. Number 10, State of Decay 3, the obvious sequel to the previous zombie open world crafting survival games where you will be tasked with building up communities to fight off the hungry hordes. This series is over 10 years old now, would you believe it? First appearing back on the Xbox 360 in 2013. So are we going to see the third game appear in 2025? I find it highly unlikely, as we only got a revamped second full trailer for the game last year, which was still filled with a lot of cinematics. Undead Labs have had a tumultuous time in the last few years, switching between directors, creative control, and a lot more issues. There's basically been a whole ton of drama behind the scenes, which ultimately has contributed to what I think now is going to be another year's delay, and we won't see it arrive until 2026. Xbox have been pretty hyped and loud about the games that are coming out this year, with release dates for things like Doom, Dark Ages and a lot more, and seemingly turning a corner with the amount of releases that will be appearing after a few years of pretty much nothing. I'm so sorry, that was a bit dramatic, but it kind of encapsulates how some of the people in the community really feel. That said, it's currently sitting at 85 in all Steam upcoming games of the most wishlisted titles. So what will the game actually offer when it arrives? Well, it won't be a full open world MMO. That was mooted around after one of the creative directors who left in the last couple of years gave some interviews claiming that the game would go back to their original vision that they had for the first game all the way back in 2011-2012. But that doesn't seem to be the case. Instead, they're going to be offering a continuous world for you and your friends to carry on exploring, but no more than maybe 4 players. Borrowing technology from their sister studio Obsidian, which they use to good effect in Grounded, effectively allowing players to log off from their game and other players to carry on that save. Fallout 76 does this, but you have to pay a premium to have that ability. But it's going to come as standard with State of Decay 3, so no more having to wait around for your friends to log in to continue adventures. You can go out and do stuff on your own, all without the need for a dedicated server. Expect many of the same gameplay mechanics you've come to love or maybe hate through the first 2, building up a community by rescuing NPCs and then trying to make sure they stay alive, with more consequences perhaps if they do succumb to a zombie scratch or bite. The latest trailer was keen to emphasise the loss and the memories that you might have to make if you don't take care of your people. If I had to put a full date on it, I wouldn't expect this until the end of 2026. Another game that's been in long development, but this one's a bit more understandable as it's made by just a solo dev. Sitting at number 77 in the most wishlisted Steam games, this is an ancient Earth that you will now be exploring after it got flooded with radiation. You and your team are tasked with investigating the source of the incident. You'll be building, crafting and exploring alone or with your friends in a hostile, mysterious wasteland, using the power of electricity and water to survive. So that's the Steam blurb, and I think some of the latest trailers show that to good effect, although the last one that we got was back in 2023. After scouring socials and having a few comments from the developer himself on previous videos, it's obviously going to take a long time. The guy is literally learning some of this as he goes, but it's still generating a huge amount of hype, with players excited about what they're seeing despite some of the more amateurish parts. It still looks better than a whole ton of actual games that are released with much bigger teams. Only will it release, will it be able to deliver? That's something we just won't know until it gets closer, and I'm really not expecting this for another 2 years. Development has slowed, with the developer having to maybe go back to his usual day job and hopefully trying to work around fitting in development of Derelicts. It looks great, it looks like a great mix between something like The Forest with a little bit more of a sci-fi edge, and of course lots of mutants attacking you. That's definitely going to give them scary vibes. I'm really interested in the automation elements. That's really going to be something that I'm going to take to if it does release. Kiora is a different take on survival, but it is indeed a survival crafting game, very much moulded in the shape of something like Terraria. I've probably said it wrong, it might even be Kiora, I'm not too sure. What I do know, this is from the makers of Core Keeper, one of my favourite crafting survival games of all time. They've set up a separate studio team now to work and begin production on this, and we're hoping to see release at some point in 2025. Offering a more magical take on 2D side-scrolling survival, with a real emphasis on being able to manipulate, destroy and build every single pixel of the screen, utilising a lot more of your magic in your wands and discovering and hopefully exploring a huge vibrant world filled with lots of biomes, dangers and more. Only just announced before Christmas, it's already moved up to number 66 of the most wishlisted Steam games. Undoubtedly going to be a huge hit, and I'll be all over it on my second channel, JPG Crafted. Before we go much further though, I have to talk about some of the games that I have omitted. Sand is a upcoming open world survival extraction game, but it really is more of an extraction game after getting first hand experience with it back with its open beta last year. So I have previously included it in a bunch of upcoming survival games, but I still don't think it really fits into the same kind that we're talking about or exploring today. Absolutely, you can argue it's survival of the fittest, automatically making it a survival game, but I would make it more akin to a battle royale than anything else. And if I do go down that route of including games that have these kind of components, then I have to start including things like Tarkov and a lot more. But I still wanted to chuck it in here, just in case I get some complaints. It is currently sitting at number 49 in the most wishlisted Steam games, so go and check it out for sure. And I will be covering it a bit more once it actually releases, hopefully later on in 2025. Stay tuned for one more controversial maybe take on what is a survival game and what isn't towards the very end of the video. Okay, now we've got that out of the way, and while you're angrily typing no it is a survival game, let's look at what else is next. This is Solarpunk, a bit more of a cozy vibe as you set sail in lots of sky islands, building up your little humble base, farm and maybe setting up some renewable energy to power your own airship. Sitting at number 43 in the most requested, this is at a successful Kickstarter, raising over €300,000 and should mean that development will go a bit smoother than most early access titles. You'll be able to play it with you and your friends as you explore a cozy world, but it does have them survival elements where you will need food and water to survive. So another contender for my second channel, but for sure looking forward to this one. If it can manage the energy requirements with the traditional farming and maybe some sort of danger as you explore, I think this has got something in it. But it's probably going to be a lot more of a cozy affair, so don't expect to come up against any monsters, mutants or anything else. So when is it going to release? I'm not expecting this until the very end of 2025, perhaps even the beginning of 2026. And just yeah, kind of crazy that a game can come out almost nowhere, only being revealed I think at the start of last year, to suddenly overtaking some of the biggest and most well-known games in survival franchises. Let's hope it's good. What I really like about Steam particularly, and the wishlist, is it does show a big plethora of survival games. It's not just when is Ark. Steam and PC players tend to want a bit more unique experiences rather than just the tried and trusted open world third person guff. This is The Alters. It's made by the same people that made This War of Mine, a very harrowing simulation, I would say strategy game from way back when, now turning their attention to something a bit more sci-fi. You are abandoned on a dangerous planet and your only hope of survival is to keep your strange ring-shaped ship in good health and running. So to do so, you're going to have to clone yourself at different junctures of where your life might have gone in different directions had you had certain inputs. Effectively, you'll be looking out for clone versions of yourself that will give you the ability to have more engineering skills. Maybe you need someone that can actually do a bit more of the driving. This is what The Alters is promising. It's a single player take as you explore this barren and dangerous planet, moving your ship along, constructing different parts of it and upgrading it to hopefully survive the weird and ethereal storms that threaten to kill you and your clones. Expect lots of story, dialogue and some moral choices along the usual survival fare. The alters will be appearing in March, one of the few games that has a confirmed release date across all platforms. A huge problem with games revealing themselves too early is they can generate a huge amount of hype just like the day before and never really have any intention of delivering on it. And sometimes it's the devs' fault by marketing and hyping up a game that really wasn't what ended up being, and other times it's the community that really overhypes something before it's even really begun. I kind of feel this way a little bit about Rooted. It is an open world crafting survival game. It generated huge buzz as people were comparing it to like The Last of Us Survival. The French team have started out from humble beginnings, including a small Kickstarter to help them along the way, and they seem to be focused on adding PvE and co-op experience for players. So despite it looks, no PvP as planned just yet, unless it's just local friendly fire. You'll be building your cabins in some maybe nice countryside locations and then exploring the more dangerous cities and towns, utilising more modern technology like drones. Haven't really seen enough of what actual dangers you'll be facing off against in terms of either zombies or mutants. Made in Unreal Engine 5, it's currently under a bunch of different alphas and lots of Kickstarters are seemingly okay with progress, showing some good stuff happening. So absolutely a more open take compared to what the day before devs showed, and I'm praying and hoping this will actually be the real deal, something big and hyped that actually gets delivered on, but I don't expect it anytime soon. With the alphas, like I said, still only just taking place, I wouldn't expect a beta until maybe perhaps the end of the year, and even then I still wouldn't expect a release for this until maybe the end of 2026. Are you ready to open up your heart and be overhyped once more for a true open world zombie survival experience? So excluding Dying Light's standalone game The Beast, because it's again more of an RPG or horror game in my opinion, we have Dune Awakening, currently sitting right now number 14 in the most wishlisted games. Apparently with over 1 million wishlists, is this game going to deliver on what Funcom is promising their least janky game ever? It's had a series of closed beta tests for the last year and things seem to be ramping up. Funcom recently flew out a bunch of Care Bear creators to check out some of the gameplay. Now I was under the impression this game was fully focused on PvP. It was going to be an MMO where you would go and fight for the spice while exploring maybe facilities, gathering more resources and then coming back to build your own bases that you could set up as blueprints to sell to other players. Using all the technology and modes of transport that you've come to see in the Dune movie cinematic universe, my true expectation really was about it being focused on just PvP. But according to some of the creators, and more of an emphasis maybe on some of their socials, you will be doing a lot more before you even get to that stage, with PvP being optional, or perhaps only the very true endgame scenarios being PvP mandated. It's something I definitely want to dive into more with some more information once I obviously get a chance to take a look at it, and that might be soon. Again, something that's still on course apparently for the early half of 2025. This feels a bit make or break for Funcom. Despite the huge success of Conan Exiles, they milked that one to death with updates that continuously broke the game, despite its valiant efforts to keep the game alive with content. They also went and added some pretty scrupulous microtransactions and battle passes that they ended up rescinding because it just really wasn't being received well. This is also Tencent's baby. They love a good MMO and they fully expect it to be massively monetized. So they're my biggest concerns. The jank, the maybe quality of the actual game, and how much they're going to try and rinse out from players. It'll be going into PC Steam Early Access and then maybe launching on Xbox and PlayStation in the far future. It's also offering a different take on the actual Dune universe story. Instead, you're going to have an ultimate reality where Paul Atreides doesn't become the chosen one or some shizzle. You'll be utilising all the skills and stuff that you've come to see in the movies and read from the books, and expect lots of actual melee gunplay as well as some ballistic action where obviously some shots won't be able to get through your shield in case they trigger a nuclear explosion or some shit like that. The slow knife goes through the shield, blah 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 blah. I'm really hoping they can envision and enliven a desert setting, as I've kind of got sick of seeing that enough in Exiles, and fingers crossed a lot of the PvE activities are going to be enough to keep people happy and they make good on their promise that PvP won't necessarily be something you have to take part in. 2 out of the top 3 are absolutely my personal favourites and most hyped for games coming out in 2025. Subnautica 2, yes, the official sequel to the original, with Below Zero officially being relegated to a side game. This watery sequel of course is going to offer more of what you come to expect, nearly running out of oxygen and just getting to the top at the last minute, getting eaten by huge giant colossus fish. But now you can scream where no one can hear you with your friends, as it's going to be a 4-player co-op adventure survival game. If you want, you can happily play it single player too. One of the most highest rated survival games on Steam, beloved by most that have played it. Let's hope that early access isn't as fraught with so many hops and jumps as their previous games, as it often did leave players kind of having to rewrite or redo a bunch of stuff. And you might be thinking that's what early access is for, but Valheim and a few others have shown that you can still add content and keep a bit of continuity. That would be my only criticism really of the previous Subnautica games. I'm just really hyped and really happy and excited I'll now be able to adventure with my friends, piloting maybe a giant, more bigger kind of submarine vessel. The possibilities are endless what you can now do with your friends underwater. This game will have the financial backing of Krafton, the makers of PUBG, who bought out the studio a few years ago, so I'm expecting some big things with this and a real big iteration and just improvements on what we've come to see before. I honestly think this is going to be one of the most bought games in 2025, and it's currently sitting at number 10 in the most wishlisted games on Steam. Ark 2. This was actually announced way back in 2020, the same year as State of Decay 3, as well as Avowed. Now Avowed's about to release 5 years later, State of Decay 3 maybe in 2026, so Ark 2, yeah, soon? Not a chance. This will not be releasing until 2027 at its earliest. Wildcard, the makers of the original game, are seemingly strung up by their publishers Snail Games and their greedy ways, trying to rinse out money via their remaster they just put out of Ark. It's had a ton of DLC, a ton of microtransactions, and it seems to be not letting up. With the publisher nearly going defunct, it's been left to Wildcard to once again come to the rescue in having a phenomenal game, and hopefully Ark 2 can deliver and improve on everything we've always wanted in a dinosaur open world survival game. Of course, it will be janky, filled with bugs that might never get fixed, I'm sure, and a big departure, apparently offering some sort of, I would say, God of War style gaming experience with Vin Diesel as the main character, and then the open world survival PvE PvP stuff maybe on the side. This was the roadmap of content that was pretty much promised alongside the launch of its remaster, and seemingly going to be finished by October 2025. That's majority been pushed back now, with some of this stuff not now appearing until 2027. At one point, Wildcard have been claiming that they've got 2 different studios or teams working on either the remaster and the true sequel, but it seems that more and more attention has been given to their immediate need for cash, and that means putting out a ton of content and a ton of ways to earn more money with the remaster. Hence why it really might be 7 years between its initial reveal and the actual playable state of Ark 2 in 2027. At very best, I wouldn't expect to see this, if we're really lucky, until 2026, the end of perhaps. And who knows if it'll be any good. Let's face it, Ark is an amazing concept, but it's always been let down by the actual developers making it. Not just their evil overlord Snail Games, but some decisions they've made into not really trying to fix their game at various times and allowing way too many cheaters and dupers to take over their official servers. So hopefully Ark 2 can really nail some of that down and give a thrilling story, as well as the survival experiences that most players just want to feed their lovely dinosaurs, run around and build some massive bases. Number 8 in the most wishlisted games on Steam currently. And before we get to number 1, a quick word on Monster Hunter Wilds. Yes, it's going to be a new take on the franchise, a fully fleshed open world, seemingly with lots of weather effects that will dictate and maybe change how you approach some of your hunts. The game's always had certain elements of survival, like you do need to prepare adequately, you need to make sure you've got the right meals and then go out on the hunt. But I've always considered it more just of an open world RPG than an actually fully fleshed survival game. I think fans of all them types of genres of games will definitely enjoy having a little glance at this. But as far as I know, its still main beat is on the hunting aspect, and just because there is a lot of hunting in survival games, I still feel like this isn't really truly a full survival game like so many we've seen in the list today. I could be wrong, that's why I said it might be controversial, and I'm mentioning this because this is actually the currently number 1 most wishlisted game on Steam right now. So definitely hyped, and I should be covering it here on the main channel as well, because I do think they do blend quite well, some of these games, with traditional survival that I cover. But for this list, no, I'm not really fully including it amongst the others. Let me know your thoughts. And so, sitting at number 7 is Light No Fire, from the makers of No Man's Sky, Hello Games. This got revealed last year, and we are eagerly awaiting any more kind of info or another look at gameplay. What was amazing was the game was absolutely being shown off here. No cinematic trailers, every clip seemingly taken from in-game. But things have gone quiet. They haven't revealed any more public info about it, other than a one-line nod to it in their wrap-up of No Man's Sky for the year. We know they've got quite a large team working on it now, the bulk of people working at Hello Games, but they are also still developing No Man's Sky. In fact, porting some of the technology they've been working on, literally backported from Light No Fire into No Man's Sky, improving the procedural generation of worlds, oceans and more. So what is Light No Fire? It's going to be a fantastical open world experience where you and your friends, seemingly not an MMO, but just something you'll be playing similar to the same sort of numbers as No Man's Sky, a procedurally generated kind of Earth-like planet. So yes, a procedurally generated planet that maybe just goes on and on, we're not too sure, but it's definitely showing a rich variety of different biomes, unique creatures to ride and tame, races, NPCs, and a lot more of a focus on armor perhaps and weapons. Having toned down perhaps the procedural generation of some of the weird and wacky creatures we saw in No Man's Sky, Light No Fire might be delivering on all of their experience, going from an absolute flop of a game when it first launched in terms of critical review to one of the most beloved now. I totally agree with Steam, it's my most hyped game I'm looking forward to in 2025, and I do think this will actually release. I think there'll be a short window for it in terms of promo, and then it will just appear out of nowhere, perhaps towards the end of the year. As always, let me know what you think about these games. Which one are you hyped for? If you're a console player, what are you really expecting this year? Look out for another video taking a look at console releases very soon. And until next time, Ratbags, I'll catch you for more survival games, news, lists and opinion. Bye bye.